Hello everyone, this is Reborn again. This is the Cleric build I'm using in mod 32 inside the new trial. Hopefully this helps some people or gives some people a direction if you want to take any of the information that I use or apply any of the gear or tricks that I use. Maybe something will help you guys out. For the helm, I use the MSOD helm for regeneration. The 5% crit strike is nice. Even without the 5% crit strike, I would still be using this helm for the 50% div regeneration. Healing Word procs this pretty well. Rarely do I see myself below 8 stacks, so I'm usually at least 40% regeneration. If it's actually 50% regeneration, though, I have to still test that, but I have noticed that my regen with this helm has been higher than the old MTOS helm that I used to use before. I used to use for the chest the Demon Web Pit chest for the 7.5% outgoing healing in a group and buffing up my teammates' crit strike by 2%, role playing as a paladin with crit aura. But in the new trial, you are rarely stacked up together like we used to be in MSOD. Everyone was always together, so you could reliably proc this with your DPS in and outside of artifact calls. However, in Soul Harvest, you are spread out, and so because you are spread out very frequently in Soul Harvest, I have switched to the Ribcage. If I had the heal Ribcage from MSOD, I would be using it, but I don't have it, so I'm stuck with deflex severity and control bonus as stats. Yay. For my arms, the MSOD arms, the 20% div and 5% outgoing healing is pretty good. Always use Masterworks as support. I happen to have the old Cholt ones. My bonus is action point gain and whatever stat you need minus power. Use whatever stat you need. You can use the 3% defense boots from MSOD if you have them. I have found that having the extra performance and divinity has been beneficial in stressful times when DPS are constantly stepping on traps or constantly failing mechanics and you need to keep them alive to heal them through their mistakes. Or they're dodging your bastions and dodging everywhere except where you're landing heals on them. Or they're constantly stepping in poison on green and you're constantly needing to cleanse them. I have found these boots to be more beneficial. If you have a competent group, then you can use your defense boots and you can buff them up more, giving them more survivability if they're playing more consistently. Typically, though, I don't have a static group. I play with pugs, so these boots have been more reliable to me. The last group I ran with did not have Apocalypse on their tanks. Their tanks were full greed, full personal, not helping the group at all, so I'm Apocalypse now, but use Apocalypse or Marilith, whatever artifact set you need to ensure the group phases the boss faster. If the boss dies sooner, the DPS face less mechanics, the tanks less tank busters, and there's more success of the run completing. As a debuff cleric, always use Grace Ring. Your group is going to want you as a cleric to debuff as much as you can because we are not a bard. We can't buff with bard. We don't have pillar of power like warlocks. We're not bards with trample the fallen. We don't have inherent class buffs, so we have to get all our buffs and debuffs from gear. I use Spine Dominion because it's 19% stats total, so you have 6,000 or 6% crit sev, 6% outgoing healing, and 7% crit strike, essentially 9%, 19% ratings. That's why I use this ring. Because I have the high divinity regen gear, I don't use the new Forte ring from the trial. So some have been using the Rotsteel Halo of Festering because it diversifies the stats and gives Forte. My Forte is fine, so I don't use that. And the new healing ring from the trial, where is it? This ring isn't 100% uptime, at least per the tooltip. I haven't tested it myself because I've just sold it. The ring, every time I get it, I receive it. So I have not been using this ring from the new trial. And this one is crit strike, so even though it has the same, you have You also have 19% stats essentially from this ring, a little bit just shy of 19, but it gives recharge speed, not action point gain. I prioritize action point gain over recharge speed as a cleric, so I do not use the Band of Withering from this trial. I decide to stay with the Spine of the Minion because same amount of stats, less item level, yes, but it has action point gain. I am using the set to get myself more outgoing healing from the MSOD trial. I am not using the new shirts and pants. Unfortunately, this set does not have action point gain on the symbols. In MSOD, I used the ASOD Flare Fiber shirt because it gave action point gain, but now I'm prioritizing the 2% outgoing healing from wearing the set. So in Soul Harvest, I've swapped to Bloodroven symbols. Outside of combat, while using the Apocalypse, you see the power, crit strike, severity, and you see the outgoing heal here. Enchantments, use whatever you need in offense to get the stats you need. Highly recommend Garnets in defense for more survivability. In a new trial, using Demon Ward, 1, it's free. Everyone has shirts and pants from the last previous mods, so everyone should be high up on guild marks. Use the 10% damage reduction modifier for your team. I slot Demonic Empowerment for action point gain for my second. I'm still using Aegis. I don't have the new enchantment yet. Use whatever artifact debuff the group needs you to use. For your other artifacts, use whatever gives you stats. So I'm using the Aegon for the crit severity and its 26 item level. Sensor is always nice. Power and Forte, pretty good for healers. And again, use whatever debuff art. If you're running Merilith, use Merilith. If you're on Apocalypse, use whatever debuff set your group needs you to use. For powers, if I am not on green, I use Intercession, Bastion of Health, Healing Word. If I am on green, then I drop Intercession and I take Cleansing Light to clear the poison that is accumulated from the AoEs on green, mainly the push. Most of your DPS are going to die to getting a... Even if you successfully dodge the push mechanic on green boss, you still get a stack of poison, and during HP debuff that can be very detrimental and instant kill DPS if you don't cleanse it. The class features I use are Expanded Faith for more divinity, and Hallowed Guide for more healing when I'm close to my target. For my feats, I use Repeated Blessings, extends the duration of Healing Word. Healing Word is one of your main heals over times. Pretty self-explanatory why it's taken. I take Battle Prayer because I have enough divinity regen in my kit based off of gear. I use Battle Prayer because I tab heal. My personal play style is to tab heal my tank so I can turn my screen away from the tank, focus on his HP bar from the side of my screen, from the HUD, and then put all my attention on, not all my attention, but a majority of my attention on the DPS that are failing mechanics in and around me. Because I tab heal a lot, I use Battle Prayer to reduce the cooldown and also reduce the divinity cost of my next tab heal. Because I play debuff Cleric, I use Towering Light. Even though it's 10% damage of... the only damage I'm really doing is Scattering Light to proc my Grace Ring and my debuff set. 10% more damage is still 10% more damage. I don't use Divine Glow, so I don't use Divine Glow or Exaltation, so taking Blessed Ornaments does nothing for me. Getting 10% more damage is still, even though it's minuscule, the other trait does nothing for me, so this wins by default. Towering Light wins by default. I take Persistent Guardian because I use Guardian of Life inside the trial. We're not using Anointed Army here because we are not in MSOD, we are not together, and Anointed Arms would just cut the duration of it in time. Plus, the heal from Anointed Arms, even if you weren't to take the trait, if you were to use Anointed Army, even though it's a duration of 20 seconds, it restores HP after HP falls below 50%. It takes so long to proc when DPS need heals, especially on the green debuff, and like you're getting poison ticks or you have fire ticks after the clones attack you as a DPS on the fire boss. You need to heal now. You need it instant. You can't wait for it. So Guardian Life is the one I've been using. I don't select the final trait because, again, I my playstyle is tab healing. I have noticed when selecting a final trait, the tab heal is nerfed. Light of Divinity, for whatever reason, is nerfed, or it feels that way when selecting one of these final traits. So I do not play with a final feat selected. Guild boons, use what you need. I always use utility speed. My guild does not have the potion share, so movement speed is the utility boon I use. Defense, I use defense, self-explanatory. For offense, use whatever boon you need to complete the stats for your build. This is my campaign boon page. You can pause here, view what you want. These are the ones I use. I have used rejuvenation potions before in the last mod, so that's why I have these. These lingering powers are more applicable if you had boon share, but my current guild does not. So these 3 points technically are kind of wasted for me, but I'm not going to change them. For companions, I'm still using the Hote Now campaign gear, because even though it is higher item level, the companion gear from mod 31, which has been also in the Endless Experiment, or whatever the first E is, the Experiment zone mechanic, the new companion gear also from last mod drops in there. You end up losing more stats because of like because of Forte. I've equipped before this the 2600 item level gear, and you end up losing more, even though it's more combined rating. You're losing more stat percentages when switching up to this, because you're not getting like crit strike or Forte or crit sev as like your other secondary. If there was another comp gear that was like the DPS ones where it gave like 2 offense, if this gave not incoming healing but outgoing healing and maybe crit strike, outgoing healing maybe power or a crit severity or something, or Forte, like it would be worthwhile using. My overall offensive stats percentages dropped when I used the 2600 item level gear, so I just went back to using the old gear from the Hote Now campaign. Purple skill, use whatever the group needs you to use. You're always going to be using Raptor. I use Fawn for crit strike and power, Grumph for crit strike, Bullet, outgoing healing, because my only other source, I don't have Pink Yeti, so my only outgoing healing companion that is double outgoing healing is the Bullet, and Compi for power. For companions, again, use whatever group has. My last group, I was running Sartell for 5% action point gain, so that's what I just have equipped now. For mounts, Runic, Mystic, Avian, Pack, use whatever the group tells you to use. Same thing for your mount power, use whatever the group tells you to use. You're going to be using a debuff. For my mount insignia bonuses, my collars are movement speed, AP gain, outgoing healing, and then I have Shepherd Devotion to buff defense and movement speed. This is helpful in the maze. You proc Guardian of Life when DPS are stepping on traps in the maze, or Tenebra is behind you, chasing you. Pop your daily, heal them, also give them more movement speed to run away faster. Works pretty good. Cost of Devotion. Even if you are not at full HP, you still get the benefit of this. So as your HP drops, just like the Combat Advantage Helm in MSOD, if your HP drops, then the percent bonus that you get drops too. So you have this all the time. You're only going to have 5% at max HP, but as your HP lowers, then the outgoing healing bonus you get just gets lower. So it doesn't go to 0. You just lose the amount you have. So this is still good, even if you're not full HP, even if you're 90% HP, 80% HP, whatever, you still have the bonus. It's just not full power. Typically your tanks run ally resilience, but if you are a support player, you know that if you are the person that is using ally resilience, you cannot give your own character the stacks of defense and deflect. So I wear this for my tanks. Because my tanks are tanking tank busters over and over again, I wear Allies Resilience for my tanks to help them survive more, because the tanks give it to everyone else in the party, but they cannot give it to themselves. So I use Ally Resilience for my tanks. I take Gladiator's Guile to help me in the maze, because we were constantly moving through the maze. As a support, you want the movement speed. And then Mender's Covenant is my last bonus, just for the offensive stats. Without a Bard and without Wrath Modar, my AP gain is 47, almost 48% right now. Movement speed is just under 60% without the Bard and Wrath Modar procced. Again, AP is only so high right now because I'm on Apocalypse set, so if I had to be Marilith instead, because the Apocalypse set has Constitution, you're getting a little bit more AP gain. So I lost 1%, maybe 2%. 47, I think it was, for 1%. Yeah, use movement speed as your bonus because you're running to and from the maze. Something I forgot to mention for this, I forgot to mention consumables. So I have the Forger's bonus from the training room here. So you can, in order to receive a certain bonus from the training room, with your Forger's box on your utility bar, press it at the same time that you enter the combat arena. As you see, it does not go on cooldown, and I refreshed my Forger's box bonus. So here I lost my AP bonus. So I lost my 46.7%, went down to 38.8%, but it gave me more crit strike because I refreshed the bonus down here. That's a tip you can use before entering a dungeon. You cannot use this in Soul Harvest because Soul Harvest is bugged. If you leave through your hotkey or through using using your signpost to travel out, you bug the instance for everyone. So you can't use it in Soul Harvest, but all the other content you can use it in. And this was just to show I did not eat any consumables. So the consumables I use are Flask of Potency, Squash Soup, Zurek, and Wildstorm Elixir. So with power, if I were to go back to Apocalypse, which is what I had before, and crit strike would be 2% lower because I had the Forger's bonus before. But in a group, the power goes from 81, you get 3.5 from Porto, 18% from Raptor, 6% from Blessed Advantage. You have the 0.5% from Flask of Potency, rank 3. You have 2% from Etrian, so you're sitting around 111 power in a trial group, which is what you'll have at least for the third boss when you build. You won't have it in the split phases. You'll be missing some of the bonuses, but when all 10 of you are together, when all 3 bosses are together, you'll be looking at around 110% power. Pretend this is 67.6% crit strike because I just refreshed the Forger's bonus, so it's now skewing my results by giving me the 2% crit strike. But you get 7.5 from Ribcage, you get 2% from your Wildstorm Elixir, 5% from Squash Soups, you get the 0.5% from the ratings from the Flask of Potency rank 3, 2% from Etrian, 3% from Blue Fire Eye. So even if you don't have a crit Pally crit aura, you're looking at around 87.6, 87.7% crit strike. For severity, you have 7.5% Ribcage, 5% Flask of Potency rank 3, the Wildstorm Elixir 5%, Squash Suit 5%, so you're looking at around 100% crit severity. For outgoing healing, 89% by yourself, you get another 6% from your shirt, because 1.5 times the 4 other people in your party. So you get 6% from your shirt, and then you have 4% from Zurich, the guild food. So I'm at around 99.6, 99.3% outgoing healing inside a trial. Don't forget also you still have your invocation blessings, so you can still get 1,000 ratings. If you can use it, then that's 1% in a stat, power, crit strike, severity, another stat that you can use. This is an example on the red boss where if you hide behind the steps and the clones are either targeted on you as a healer or one of the DPS with a cleric, tab your tank, you can still tab heal your tank from the safety of the steps. The clones won't, if the clones are line of sight, so they won't kill you from behind the steps. You are outside of the black balls, as you see here, so you're not being hit by the black balls. 10A does not aggro you from the maze because you are so far forward. The 10A does not see you, and you can safely heal your DPS from, well, the DPS. If the clones are bugged in you, you can also heal the DPS if they're still on the stack there. So you can heal your DPS and your tank from the steps as a cleric while preventing yourself from getting skulls over and over and over again. And you are still outside the range of the mechanics. If the fire suck attack from red also occurs at a time, you can just simply dodge forward. You're not going to get pulled towards the boss because the steps also act as a physical barrier. So you can dodge backwards out of the fire and not obtain skulls that way because you are too far away. Here's an example POV of Cleric healing on green. Always deposit. Well, for this group, we were short on time. Sometimes it's smart to delay depositing. The other group got stuck in the maze a little bit for this one, so we had to deposit quickly. Always look for DPS. As you saw there, I healed Thorn. As soon as after depositing, I healed Thorn instantly. Always look for the DPS that are low on HP throughout the phase. Always cycle to your tank to try and keep an eye on him and keep him topped off on green. As you see here, right after the push is when I proc Cleansing Light. Nasty dodges out of it so he doesn't get cleansed, so I have to cleanse him again. Even if you successfully dodge the green push and knockback, the DPS are going to get a stack of poison that will need to be cleansed and or healed through. As you see here, again, I'm ground targeting Cleansing Light on the stack at the boss to cleanse both. Despite going full personal, you see Neverwinter Destroyer is having a hard time as a tank. There is nothing you can do about the tanks getting one shot. Just keep them at full HP. That's all you can do. Keep them cleansed, keep them at full HP. It's actually good Julio, despite being ranged, is coming close because I can keep him alive when he's close. As you see there, he's dodging back. If he's constantly dodging out of your heals, I can't heal him. Neverwinter Destroyer here does a fantastic job of rotating both away from the DPS and away from the healer, making it even harder for me to keep him alive. As a tank, rotate towards your healer, rotate towards your DPS, so your healer can heal all of you guys together. Julio unfortunately took the aggro once Destroyer died. Remember, Cleansing Light, always cleanse your melee friends after the push, because even when you successfully dodge the push mechanic, they still have stacks need to be cleansed. I try to time my Angel of Life for the DPS during the orb phase, that way Angel can heal them while I focus on the tank. Destroyer does a better job this time of rotating towards the heals, so it is easier to keep track of him and heal him up alive. As you start playing Cleric more, try and time your Bastions, as I do right here, to instantly heal back up to full after the Tank Buster hits. So that way there's not a chance for a poison to tick him down, or to tick the target down, or whatnot. Half of my heals here are tab healing, because that is just my playstyle. They're Bastion sniping, getting them right back up to full as soon as the Tank Buster hits. Again, Neverwinter, that kind of was the only spot for him to rotate, but I have to now move myself to him. He also ends up spending a little too much time here in this bubble. Again, I don't know why he's sitting in the bubble. He could have moved closer towards the wall and taken less damage. But tanks will do what tanks do. Cleanse the poison stack. Again, you can't heal one-shots. There's nothing you can do about that. Basically, just keep your, as a cleric, just keep your tank full HP when you can, because that will give him or her the highest chance of survivability.